Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn about what is the difference between using input pull-up option in pin mode or using resistors. We can use both by using switches when using switches. When we use a resistor to pull up or pull down, we can adjust the system to get a high or low by default. That means on one on the one hand, if we connect the terminal of the switch to a high via a resistor and low via a switch, we get a high by default. Why? Because it is actually the terminal, the pin of the Arduino is actually connected to high directly via a resistor. So we get a high by default. And the switch becomes a push to open. That means when the button is pushed, the switch is open, the switch is off. So when I have left the switch, it is actually on. When I push the switch, it is off. So it is push to open or push to off kind of a switch. When you push the switch is deemed open, not connected, or we can say it is off. On the other hand, if we connect the terminal of the switch to low via a resistor, naturally we will get a low by default. Right? And the switch is now a push to close. So we say push to close or push to on. This means using a resistor, we can use the switch in both modes, that is push to close or push to off, or push to open, that means push to on. Let me display this entire system using Arduino, using Tinkercad. And this is the system using resistors. I have two switches, one is switch 1, one is switch 2. So switch 1 is connected to low by default. So if it is low by default, that means when I push the switch, when I have not switched this, press this switch, this is actually off. Alright, and alright. So on the one side of where it is connected to Arduino, it is actually connected to the low, and on the other side of the switch, it is actually connected to a high. On the other hand, the other switch 2, is actually connected to a high on the Arduino side, and it is connected to a low on the power side. So this means what happens is when let's consider switch 1. Switch 1 is a push to close. It is connected to low to pin via resistor. So it is connected to low via pin, and it is high via a switch. So when I press the switch, it becomes high. So this is push to close, or we can say this is push to open. Second is push to open. So let me show you the simulation first. So when the simulation starts, the first switch on the switch 1 side, the LED is off. Why? Because I need to push the switch to close the circuit. So when I press the switch, it actually switches on the LED. And when I remove the switch, don't press the switch, it is off. On the other side, when the LED is always on, and when I press the switch, it actually closes. Right? So this is how it works. So you can see the description on both the sides. You can see that the signal from the switches are actually going to pin number 6 and 7, and the output from the Arduino is coming via pin numbers 8 and 9. Alright. So I have set LED 1 pin and LED 2 pin as pin number 9 and 8, switch 1 pin and switch 2 pin as pin number 7 and 6. And they have no input pull up here. These are simple inputs. So what do we actually do? We say int x. I've just created a variable int x, and I have read switch one pin. And if x is high, so that means if it is getting a high on that side, I set LED one pin as high. Otherwise, I set LED one pin as same thing. I do it here on the other side also. So for LED two, and you know that if I if this switch is not pressed, it will automatically get a low. Okay? It will automatically get a low. So it is getting a low, and this is getting a high. Okay, let me show you the other part, that is using input pull-up. I am not using any resistance on the side because I am using input pull-up option. Okay, I am using input pull-up option from here. So what happens now? If I am using input pull-up from there, it is actually this pin, the pin number 6 and 7. Both of them are actually connected to an internal resistance on the Arduino itself, which is actually going to give it a high. It is always going to give it a high. With resistances, which when we use resistances, we have an option of giving it a high or giving it a low. So switch 1 is getting a low by default. Switch 2 is getting a high by default. But when we use input pull-up, both of them get a high. So that means both of them are on by default. And if when I press the switch, it actually gets low and the switch gets off. How do I differentiate between the two now? How do I make this as push to close and make this as push to open? What I do now is the same code, except that over here I've changed x is equal to low. So that means I have just reversed it. I've just reversed it. That means if x is low, it is going to switch on the LED. And if it is high, it is going to switch off the LED. So it goes in reverse. Let us check this now. You will find that LED 2 is on, LED 1 is off. And when I press this, if I press this, and this automatically becomes on. So why is this? So when I press this switch, uh, then this LED gets switched on. Whereas on the other side, this LED gets switched off. So what difference? What coding difference is there? Number one is I have used input pull-up, and secondly, I have just simply reversed. If X is low, then I have made LED pin one pin as high. Whereas on the other side, when we actually use resistances, we said if it is high, it is high, otherwise it is low. Here also we say if it is high, it is high, otherwise it is low. So we just reverse the digital right. That means if X is low, then LED one pin gets high, it becomes on, otherwise it becomes off. I hope this is clear to you. I think in future we are going to use the input pull-up now. We have matured enough now. So instead of using resistances to do the same task, we are now going to use uh, input pull-up and do the task accordingly. Okay? So that means reverse it if we just want the switch. If it is pushed, then it should be on. That kind of thing, which is the normal case. So I hope this is clear to you. If you have any problems, just give me some message in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.